And alright, guys, welcome along to another episode of 420 News. Hope everybody's good out there. And apologies, guys, for the delay on getting the show started this evening. Of course, as soon as I hit the go live button earlier, the computer decides it wants to crash. So I had a bit of fun there just sorting that those bits and pieces out. But look, we're here, we're live now again, and I see you're all out there, guys. Apologies, Russell, for having you refreshing the page there to see the live stream. But we're here, look, and we have some 420 news lined up for you today, guys. Hope everybody's good. Who we got out there? I see Podge. What's going on, Podge? WRT Gunner. Shining on a Bucket. What's going on? John O'Regan. How are you, John? Hope all is well, bud. Rudy. What's going on, Rudy? 1985. And who else is there? Billy Burndred. Miss Stowes, what's going on, Miss Stowes? And Teresa, how are you doing, Teresa? Teresa saying hi Monday, Martin. Thought something happened to today's news. Maybe didn't hit the live button. Listening from the bog today. Oh, you're out in the bog, yeah? Hopefully you don't get stuck out there. Alright, so guys, we'll get stuck into today's 420 news, as I am a little bit behind schedule. I have a Thai boxing class to teach later, so I better not be late for that. The first headline I have for you in today's 420 news is coming out of County Tipperary here in Ireland, where the judge, after a man was caught with a personal amount of cannabis, and after being brought in front of the judge in question in this case was Judge McGrath. And Judge McGrath basically found the man guilty of his crime of possessing cannabis for his own personal use. This is after Garda James Powell searched the individual named Liam Quinlan under the Misuse of Drugs Act in Thurles Garda Station on November 17, 2019. So the man was, after being arrested, brought back to the station at this point, and at the station they searched him. At the station then, after searching him, they found a clear plastic bag which contained a small amount of cannabis. They don't state how much cannabis he actually got caught with, but they do say that he admitted responsibility and that it was for his own personal use. The individual has 25 previous convictions, including one for drugs and some others for driving offences also. The solicitor defending the man said he has been before the courts for road traffic matters before. There had been a tragedy involving Mr. Quinlan's brother, and this had caused him to engage in substance abuse, and he received some therapy for this. Mr. Quinlan also is an amateur jockey and is back at work, added his solicitor. But the judge noted the guilty plea and imposed still a €100 fine with 8 months to pay it, and issued a destruction order in relation to the drugs. So here we have a man who got caught with a small amount of cannabis, and the judge has given him a criminal conviction which is going to be carried with him now for the rest of his life. So whatever about €100 fine, like, you know, like that could be €1,000, a €10,000 fine, whatever, you know what I mean? You just don't pay it, you go up to Cork prison or whatever prison it is for a couple of hours, and they send you on home with a ticket for the bus and everything. You know, it's a joke of a system. The whole fines and all of this for your cannabis use, but it's the criminal conviction that this man carries with him now for the rest of his life. Now, he's an amateur jockey. Maybe I'm not too sure what it's like to get hired as a jockey out there, but maybe people who hire jockeys don't want a jockey who potentially could be arrested for cannabis use, you know, and bring down the name of the stables, because a lot of these stables, you know, they're well from people from higher classes, I suppose, and they're all well to do, and they wouldn't like to be associated with some criminal druggie, you know. So very unfortunate here. That's the worst thing that happens to the man in this case. Now, the fact he's been given 8 months as well to pay a €100 fine, like that's just shy of €10 a month, like, you know. Another 2 months there, and that's exactly what he would have had to put away every month. €10 a month there for my crime of having cannabis. What in the name of, what are they even up to? I really don't understand these punishments anymore. They make very little sense to me, and like, what about the general public out there as well? Like, well, we're paying for all of this. These are services we are paying for. The courts, the free legal aid, the Gardaí. And is this value for our money? Is this money well spent? Where the Gardaí are searching, ripping the pants off of a poor young man up in the Garda station and finding a little bit of cannabis on him. And now that same young man is going to be a burden to our state for the rest of his life because he's less employable now because of this criminal conviction. And the Gardaí know it. And yeah, you're spot on there, Pods, man. It's a money racket. That's how I feel about the whole justice system, about the court system here in Ireland. Anytime I've gone into court, it seems to me that all they're interested in is the money. There's no victim to my crime. I'm in there to right no wrong. I've done no wrong. I'm literally in there to be extorted for money. Hey, do you want to keep your good name? Oh yeah, pay the donation there to the poor box. Do you know? Oh yeah, you got caught with cannabis. You already have a conviction. Well, there you go. Here's a 3, 4, 500 euro fine. Pay that there, look, in however many months. Do you know? And a lot of people will, because not many people want to be hauled off to prison because of not paying a fine. It's just easier to pay it. But for me, I'm calling upon all of you out there, guys. Anybody, whoever gets caught with cannabis, if you're brought before the courts, if you're given a fine, if you're standing up for your rights, don't pay it. Do not pay these fines, because it's a joke of a system. If we don't pay these fines, then maybe they might be forced to have to lock us up a bit more, maybe. And maybe the public, there might be a bit more of a backlash from the public when, you know, the prisons are full of 18, 19-year-olds who are getting caught with small nodges of hash and weed and stuff like that, you know. So I would say non-payment of fines is probably the strongest protest we have when we're up before the judges and the courts, you know. Don't be a part of your own oppression. And in other news, I suppose, from the exact same court, from the exact same judge, the judge handed out a €150 fine to another man, and he gave that man 6 months to pay it. I'm not too sure what the reasoning is there. You know, the last guy got a €100 fine in 8 months. This guy got a €150 fine with 6 months to pay it. Not entirely sure, but from the exact same judge, again, you know, is this value for money? Like the Gardaí going out there, intercepting these people, catching them with their drugs, be brought before the courts, and the court turns around and says, yeah, €150 fine and 6 months to pay it. Like, could the Gardaí not have just done that at the side of the road when they caught him with the hash or the weed or whatever they caught him with? Again, this was a tiny amount of cannabis. This was a guy's own personal amount of cannabis. This was after Sergeant John McCormack had told Judge Elizabeth McGrath that Garda Karen Barber attended the scene of a road traffic accident on September 24th in 2020 in the Thurles area, and during the search of a vehicle, Garda Barber located a quantity of suspected drugs, suspected to be cannabis herb, in a small container in the car. Brendan Ivers, who was owner of the car, was charged with unlawful possession of drugs at the scene and Thurles on the same date. He admitted that it was for his own personal use, and that the sergeant added then that the accused had 10 previous convictions related to drugs and road traffic offences. His solicitor said Mr. Ivers, who is 31, has 2 children and works in the construction sector. He said he was an irregular user of cannabis but will not appear before the courts again in relation to drug use. He wants to put matters behind him, and Judge McGrath fined the individual €150 with 6 months to pay it. So again, you know, the individual here is working. He's a father of 2, making up some nonsense story that he's an irregular user of cannabis. Like, come on, just own it. Just own it. Why are we dancing around the bush? You know what I mean? I don't use cannabis, Judge. I only use it irregularly. That was the first time in months, Judge, that the guards happened to catch me, because our guards are so good. Do you know, they knew not to stop and search me for the months prior when I had nothing on me. And that one time they stopped me, I just happened to have a little bit of cannabis on me. Like, go away with your cock and bull stories, guys. Just stand up and own it. Like, yes, I am a human born onto this earth, and no government has the right to tell me that I cannot consume cannabis. It's ridiculous. It's a violation of our human rights. Just people out there suffering right now without access to it, because cannabis is an amazing plant that offers a lot of therapeutic value to people out there. I've certainly experienced therapeutic benefit from cannabis. Although I wouldn't regard myself as a medical cannabis user, I'd certainly see it as a therapeutic use in the way in which I would use it myself anyway. But for the next man who found himself before the court in Dundalk, he was growing cannabis to alleviate his back pain. So this was a man who denied having drugs for sale and supply, and claimed he was growing cannabis plants in his home to self-medicate for back pain and save money. He had his case adjourned at the Dundalk District Court last week for preparation of a probation report. And this individual, Kieran Barker from Dundalk, also told the judge, Aaron McKiernan, He had bought cannabis herb found hidden in his car because it was lockdown and it was harder to get. Now, this individual is a 42-year-old, and he was before the courts last Wednesday, charged with cultivating cannabis plants, unlawful possession of cannabis herb, and having the drug for sale and supply on May 21st of last year. The court also heard that 10 plants with an estimated street value of €8,000 were found at their home, and a small amount of cannabis was discovered in a kitchen drawer after a search warrant was executed. The search warrant came on foot of after basically the individual was stopped at a checkpoint, and the Gardaí found inside in the vehicle wraps of cannabis valued at about €750. One wrap was hidden behind the car radio, and a second wrap was found in the door. I don't know, is that the door pocket or actually in the door panels? But the guy was obviously trying to hide it. He was clearly terrified of getting caught. €750 worth of cannabis, not a lot of cannabis, to be fair, like, you know. So it's unfortunate here. This individual who suffers with back pain, who went out because of lockdown to buy some cannabis. The individual was actually trying to, I suppose, be environmentally friendly in his approach to getting cannabis. He was growing cannabis out his back garden using the sunshine and stuff. So the cops came and actually just took some 10 sun-grown cannabis plants. Now, guys, in May in Ireland, like we're just halfway through June now, and last May was a bit of a shitty weather. It wasn't the greatest of weather. So you can imagine the state of the plants that the Gardaí took. Now, if you flash back to Tony Keogh's case there, and you see those cannabis plants that he had grown out in his bit of land above there, that'll give you an idea as to maybe the size of them. Like, they were rather small. Now, Tony Keogh managed to argue the value of his plants down to €200 a plant because of the maturity of them. So if this individual is out there listening, if somebody knows him, let him know. Like, you could argue the value of those plants down to €200 a plant, meaning that the value of the plants would now be €2,000, far less than the €8,000 that the Gardaí have put in anyway. And that's based off of the case of Tony Keogh, from the Keogh's Crisps family. So, and he was doing it as well as a research project, he was saying. This man was doing it to alleviate back pain, like to literally to improve his quality of life. And the judge will sit there, you know, and view this person as a criminal, as having done something wrong. The man in question here also has had no previous convictions, has never been in trouble whatsoever with the cops. And still the judge sees fit to go and seek a probation report. Like, be fair, like this guy should have got the donation charity box opportunity. He was growing some cannabis plants for his own back pain, 10 of them out his back garden. You know, if you were to be a person suffering with back pain and you were relying on buying cannabis from the black market, well then, and if you were only going to grow it using the sun, then you would have a very short window where you would have to grow all of your cannabis, your year's worth of cannabis. So they effectively took what would have been a year's worth of medicine for this individual, and they're now viewing him as a criminal. My and your tax money, do you know, that money that goes into the exchequer, that's being used for this. That's our money being put to amazing use out there, lads. Well fucking done to the policy makers that make this possible. Do you know, and meanwhile there's mental health services out there going incredibly underfunded. There's youth services out there, you know, within our communities that are incredibly underfunded. Do you know, some of them are so underfunded that they've ceased to exist. And we wonder then why there's so many young people being so easily manipulated into the organised crime gangs out there, and to carry out their bidding on our streets, you know. I don't see any sight in end either, sadly, you know, because the prohibitionists are really out in force over the last while. And I've been touching on this lately a number of times, warnings about cannabis edibles in the media. These have been numerous now over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and the most recent one now is that there's principals above in Dublin after sending out warnings to parents that THC jellies are being sold in some of the schools in Dublin. Now, this wouldn't really be the case if cannabis edibles were sold by regulated sources and not by teenagers and young adults, you know. Why is it being sold by teenagers and young adults and the kids? Well, it's because of prohibition. If we didn't have prohibition, if these things were regulated, then guess what? It would be much like alcohol and tobacco. Is there warnings at the moment going out from Dublin principals about tobacco being sold in schools? About alcohol being sold in schools? No. Why? Because regulation works. Yes, regulation actually works. It's a crazy notion, isn't it? That taking the drugs that so many adults in our society seek out of the control of criminals and actually into the hands of legitimate business people, then we would be much better off. Like, who would have thought it? Jeez, I thought those criminals would have been more responsible about their selling of drugs, you know. I thought they might have had some morals. Not. But I suppose in foot of this, and why I say it, you know, I feel like the optimisms after being knocked out of me is because there's now after being a cannabis edible task force established here in Ireland, following all of these warnings, all of this propaganda that's coming out about cannabis. Again, the real problem here is prohibition. We should have a prohibition task force, not a cannabis edible task force. Why in the name of God was the government able to put together a cannabis edible task force and not the Citizens' Assembly as we were promised? Why? I do not understand this. Like, this government are acting in contempt of their people now at this moment. Like, they promised us a Citizens' Assembly as part of their programme for government. We're now over a year into the life of this government, and they've still failed to set a date for this. But yet they managed to go out and set up a cannabis edible task force. Do you know? They're literally able to do this, but they can't do the other things that we're looking for them to do as they promised us to do. They're able to set up a cannabis edible task force, but where's the medical cannabis task force? Where's the task force going out there seeing the suffering and the pain caused by the lack of access to cannabis in Ireland? Where's that task force? I don't see it. I don't hear of it. I've heard no talks of it. This cannabis edible task force, they met 2 weeks ago. So they've not only managed to set them up, but they've also carried out their own first meeting. And what did they decide to do as part of that first meeting? What do you think they decided to do? I don't know. Maybe they were watching Martin's World. I think they might have been watching Martin's World. They're going to carry out testing of cannabis edibles to find out the exact levels of THC in the sweets. Lads, you might want to go a little bit further if you're still out there watching and actually test if it is THC, and if it's not THC, then what actually is in these jellies that you're seizing. I would love to fucking know. And I would love to know what in the name of God were the Forensic Science Ireland doing over the last number of years with all the edibles that were being seized. How do they not know how much THC is in them? Surely this is worthwhile information that should be getting out there to the public in terms of harm reduction for the drug consumers out there. Guys, we just took a batch of edibles there from the post office, you know. We tested some of them there, look, and the packs we tested, you know, out of 10, 5 of them had no THC in them at all. 3 of them had synthetic cannabinoids, and 2 of them actually were moldy or something, you know. Like, results like this would be great. Like, that would be very useful information, you know, rather than today, revenue officials at the customs post office, whatever, blah, 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 have seized €1 million worth of drugs thanks to drug detector dog Bailey, and drugs will now be destroyed, and blah, 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 and that's it. Do you know what I mean? No good, no value to the public. There's zero value there to the public, like nada. So this cannabis edible task force, anyway, they've been established to detect and stop the import and sale of cannabis edibles. Good luck to that. Like, what were the Gardaí established for? Were the Gardaí not supposed to be doing this? Like, are we double jobbing now? Like, you know what I mean? So the Gardaí can't do it, so we're going to create a new task force to do what the Gardaí couldn't do, but they're going to do nothing different than the Gardaí, in fairness. Like, they're just going to sit down and do investigations. Like, come on, like, inside the makeup of the task force, then it's made up of representatives from the FSAI, that's the Food Safety Authority of Ireland, An Garda Síochána, the HSE, which is the Health Service Executive, Revenue and Customs also, and they've all been assigned to the new task force to examine this emerging drug trend. The task force held its first meeting less than a fortnight ago. Just last month, 2 young boys aged 3 and 4 were treated in Temple Street Hospital after eating cannabis jellies. The incident followed an increasing number of children and teens presenting at hospitals after eating sweets laced with cannabis. Dr. Pat O'Mahony, a scientist with the FSAI, and I think I have an old picture of Pat there. There's Pat there. He looks like a test tube baby. Apologies for passing a judgment on your looks there. Actually, I shouldn't have done that. But he does, in fairness. Like, maybe he's a boxer and he's got the nose flattened in the ring. Like, you know, like I know what that feels like. But Dr. Pat O'Mahony, a scientist with the Food Safety Authority and a member of the new task force, said the availability of cannabis jellies in schools was a major concern. Cannabis jellies are widely available in some secondary schools in Dublin. That's a real worry. Some schools in Dublin have already taken proactive action and written to parents warning them. This is a matter of serious concern. I will be suggesting a memo to the Department of Education to warn all educators. And then also then coming from the Gardaí, which was this lady pictured here, and geez, she looks like she'd eat you without salt. She's the detective's chief superintendent by the name of Angela Willis. And she says that there's been an increase in the prevalence of cannabis edible products. And she's also a part of the Drug and Organised Crime Bureau. And she said that the Garda Síochána through the Garda National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau are participating in multi-agency collaboration regarding an increase identified in the prevalence of cannabis edible products. While cannabis edibles look and taste like sweets, they can contain significant levels of psychotropic drugs. And the task force intends to send some of the seized edibles for analysis to determine the exact levels of THC in the sweets seized by Gardaí and customs officers. Again, I just don't understand why they weren't doing this all the fucking long way. Then Pat O'Mahony adds in that there is still a lot we don't know. The next step is, as he says, for the drugs to be tested, and sorry, I just lost my place. He goes, and what we do know, is that they are being imported, and that this is a problem that can only get worse. Well, do you know what? Out of the whole thing, this is the only thing he got right. This is a problem that can only get worse unless we do what, Pat? Go on, say it. You can't say it. What do you mean your hands are tied? What do you mean you can't say prohibition is a massive failure, Pat? What do you mean that why can't you tell the parents out there that the prohibition of cannabis is the thing that puts their kids most in harm's way? No, Pat, no. No, he said, it is drug trafficking in the food system. It's brand new to us and we're trying to get a handle on it. And yeah, you're doing a great job at the moment, lads. Well done. All you're really doing is actually advertising these jellies out there to the kids now and making them more sought after. You know, the kids are looking at the newspaper saying, geez, I want to be like that young fella and I want to get my hands on some of those cannabis jellies. I bet you I won't go at the hospital, you know, because kids think what? They think they're invincible, don't they? Yes, they do. So these stories of scaremongering do very little to scare kids away from cannabis because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We all know it's relatively harmless, and the most danger that comes from cannabis is from the fact that it is illegal. The revenue officials then have added into this about the massive rise in seizures of cannabis products. So revenue officials say that between 2019 and 2020, there's been a massive increase in seizures of cannabis, going from 515 kilos, approximately 10 million worth, to almost 1,500 kilos, 1,439 kilos exactly, and that's worth 28.6 million. So the Gardaí seized over a 2-year period just shy of €40,000 worth of cannabis. Now, €40,000 worth of, or €40 million worth of cannabis. Now, imagine if that's only maybe say 10% of all of the cannabis actually sold in Ireland. Imagine, like, so over the 2 years, that's 400 million there that potentially was made. And that's been very generous, saying that the Gardaí seized 10%. I would be inclined to say, actually, they probably seized more closer to only 1%, which would put the value of the cannabis market in Ireland at about roughly €2 billion a year. That's an incredible sum of money to be leaving in the control of criminals, wouldn't you think? €2 billion. Imagine what we could do in Ireland with €2 billion every year. Quite a lot. Like, imagine what the criminals are doing with it. Nothing good anyway. That's for feckin' sure. So we drive on from there because there was more warnings. Or actually, before I drive on from there, actually, Professor Pat O'Mahony also added this into this article. He said that the scientists in the task force are now trying to establish if criminals were making their own jellies containing THC, or if they were hijacking and injecting sweets with illegal psychotropic drugs. Now, in fairness, like it just goes to show that these guys don't have a clue what they're talking about. Because one, you don't inject jellies with cannabis anyway, that's for sure. But dude, like, of course the criminals are making their own, and they're importing them. They're doing both. Like, it's so easy for them to be able to do both. So why wouldn't they? It's obviously going to be, if you're growing your own cannabis and processing it, then yeah, you make your own edibles and stuff. But a lot of them, do you know, yeah, they are making their own. They're buying in the extracts, and then they're making up their own brownies, making up their own all sorts of stuff, you know. But I have a video there for you guys that I'd like to just pop up on screen. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. I'll get this to fit the screen. But this is how easy it is for criminals to make these nerd-infused ropes. Now, I don't know if any of you have actually looked up this, but here's a little video just showing you how these things are actually made. So you get your boxes of nerds, you get your tub of jellies and your cannabis-infused oil. And then as the woman is doing here, she's folding up the tin foil to make these little creases that you're now going to rest your nerds in between. So you pour your nerds down the center of the tinfoil as is shown here, and in a few seconds now she's going to microwave her jellies then and melt all of the jellies. And the only reason I'm not letting this woman talk over this is because she has music playing in her video, and it'll probably get my video pulled because I don't have a license for it. But you see there now, she's just after melting the jelly, and at this point now she's after infusing the jelly with her cannabis oil tincture. And she's given that a good old stir. But I suppose I'll just pause it there as well to just say one thing, you know, at this point, that there's a potential that what she just mixed in there, because she didn't use any binding agents, you know, to help mix the THC in with the jellies, with the oil, there could be some bit of separation. I've experienced that before in edibles that I've made myself, that sometimes when you try to mix the oil in like that sometimes using something like a soy lectin or something like that is quite helpful just to get that binding consistency. But I'll drive on. So she pours the jelly mixture into a squirtable bottle, and then she just squirts it down like that. That's it. It's nice and simple. Just give it an old squirt right down the center, the line, and be careful not to use too much there. You only need to use a little bit. You only just want to get enough just to bind with those nerds. And after doing it to them all, then, sorry, I skipped ahead. She'll pour more nerds down on top of them, just to go over the top of the jelly, and then give it a little squish in at the side, then just to kind of press it in. And then after this, it's stuck into the fridge for maybe a couple of hours overnight. And also here is another variation where you just put it into silicone molds and squirt in the jelly mixture in order to make little nerd bites. So that's the simplest way you could make cannabis edibles. Now, if you go back to the very start, well, I'll just let you see the finished product here. Yeah, she has a bit of trouble here trying to peel them off of the tinfoil as well. So tinfoil will be good for getting the crease and crinkling her over, but wax paper would definitely be easier for peeling her off afterwards. But if you go back, I suppose, the cannabis oil that the person used back here then as well, that's quite easy to make. Like if this is either an alcohol or an oil based, I think the woman in the video said it was actually a tincture using alcohol. So this actually was an alcohol based mix. So it's quite easy. You just decarboxylate your cannabis, infuse it with your choice of solvent, whether it be alcohol or whether it be coconut oil or butter. And then after leaving it for some time to infuse over a little bit of heat, you can then remove it and filter it, filter out the solid from the oil, and that's it. That's simples. That's all you got to do to make your own edibles. You think that, you telling me that there's going to be criminals out there who aren't going to be willing to do this? Of course there is. Like, of course they're doing this. They're making their own edibles. So we drive on from there, guys, and we go to another headline, which was warning people about cannabis edibles in the UK again. But I changed it because once I got into the article, there was something a lot more disturbing, and it was in the very first second sentence of the article. And it was 12 children trafficked into Nottinghamshire from overseas have been discovered in residential properties that were turned into cannabis factories. Now, this guy here, Diaz Allen, and Diaz, in this case, I think it stands for dipshit, but it could also stand for detective sergeant. But I think dipshit is more suiting here for a dipshit Allen. But basically, he's came out in saying that his officers will make no apologies for directing resources into shutting down cannabis factories across Nottinghamshire. He says criminals can make millions of pounds tax-free from their illegal activities while honest people go to work for a living to make ends meet. Is he forgetting here that there's honest people involved in the cannabis industry who would love nothing more than to be legitimately paying taxes and employing people for the production of the cannabis, you know? No, he's too much of a dipshit to know that, isn't he? But this comes after police closed down an alleged cannabis chocolate factory in Johnson Road in Lenton, where nearly 600 bars of Cadbury's Dairy Milk chocolate were found at the property. The chocolate was being cooked into cannabis butter, which was found hidden in the cellar and then transformed into their own brand of chocolate bar. So there you go, guys. Like, very much like the video we seen just 2 seconds ago. People are just going out buying already well-established chocolate bars, you know, Dairy Milk, like, they got some pretty tasty chocolate, and they're just melting it down, infusing it with their own blended oil, whether it be a bit of butter here, as they're saying in this case, and they're making a fortune off it, because they turn what was maybe a bar that would have been maybe £1 over in the UK to buy in the shop into now a bar that's worth £25 to £30. They turned a little bit of cannabis that would have been worth maybe, you know, over in the UK, maybe £10 a gram into something along the regions of maybe £30 to £40 a gram. You know, they're really bumping up the profits there for themselves. He says that the evidence also just suggests that this was being run as a business. Of course it was, right? What else do you expect criminals to run their criminal enterprise like, you know? It's a business, like, it's just an illegal one, like, you dipshit. He told Nottingham Live that they cook the cannabis, which extracts the THC into a paste or an oil and then injects that into things such as chocolates and sweets. Again, dipshit Alan, get your terminology correct. It's not injected in, it's infused. You infuse it in, or it's mixed in. Like injecting, that's what your doctor does when you're getting your old swine flu jab or whatever, the coronavirus jab. He went on to say that if you start cooking the stuff, then you are amplifying the smell. He says they may see it as a low-risk enterprise, but it is high risk in terms of detection. Is it a new trend? Yes, he says. Will there be more than 2 cases? Almost undoubtedly, and until we do more police work, we will not know the trends and the effects on Nottinghamshire. People see cannabis as low risk and high reward, but it is a significant funding stream for organised crime. Then, dipshit Alan, why don't you get onto your government to take it out of the hands of the organised crime gangs, huh? Maybe that's just, you know, a sensible thing to do? Rather than going on issuing warning to students to avoid turning their hand to drug dealing or drug production during their 3-year spelling in Nottingham. And he's acknowledging here that yes, drug dealing is quite an alluring temptation for students, because guess what? Students like taking drugs. And guess what? Students are quite broke a lot of the time. A lot of them have to put in part-time work, crazy hours doing part-time jobs, you know, in bars and stuff like that, which can interfere with their studies. Whereas a drug-dealing student can show up and go to college, sell drugs in college, and go and study quite effectively then into the evening and not be interrupted by unnecessary part-time work. So yes, like, drug dealing is quite alluring to the students. So again, dipshit Alan, get out there and campaign against your government to take it out of the control of organised crime gangs, So the students then, if they want to get involved in this kind of activity, that they can get involved in it in a legal sense rather than the illegal sense. Dipshit Allen went on to continue that if you have a conviction for the sale of drugs, you aren't getting into a host of countries. He says you will be excluded from passing through their borders. If you have a family in the future, you won't be enjoying Disneyland. What an asshole. What an asshole, like. Man, that cuts deep. Like, I can't enjoy Disneyland. Like, it's going to be incredibly difficult for me. Is that fair to my kids, you dipshit? Because that's who's going to miss out on it. Like, if my kids go over there without me, like, that takes away a lot of the enjoyment for them. Is that fair? What have you achieved by criminalising me, taking away my ability to travel, do you know? And you rubbing it in people's faces here then, you know, you're well aware of the effect that you're criminalising people for their drug use is having on their life, and you continue to do it. Why? Why in the name of God you continue to do this? You're supposed to be out there protecting people because drug use harms a person's life. What does criminalising them do? What does not being able to bring your kids to Disneyland because you got caught with a joint 20 years ago, you know, and you have a criminal conviction with you for the rest of your bloody life? He also goes on to say that you are also narrowing your horizons for employment. If you are foolish enough to produce cannabis in novelty form like sweets and chocolates, you will regret that in later life. When you are going for a job against someone with a clean record, it will have a big impact on your life. Make no bones about it. Beyond this new trend, Diaz Allen said cannabis production is funding many organised crime gangs across Nottinghamshire and beyond. People have the debate that the police should not be focusing on cannabis grows because there are more serious crimes to investigate. No, people don't say that at all. People say that the cannabis grows should not be illegal and that the police should not be focusing on them because the government should be regulating them. You know, finish what the people are saying. Like, people aren't looking for this fucking Wild West scenario where there's no regulations around cannabis and it's just openly sold on street corners, you know, because it's not criminalised anymore. No, that's silly, like. But he goes on to say, and this is the interesting part, you know. So this article focused on the edibles. You know, the headline of the article was warning parents about cannabis edibles. They had kids as young as 13 be found in some of these cannabis grow houses that they raided in the UK across Nottinghamshire. So he went on to say that the most concerning part of this is that the trafficking of children from the Far East in Vietnam, and they are controlled by gardeners in properties in Nottinghamshire. He says these are young teenage boys, children trafficked and held in cannabis farms in the residential houses of Nottinghamshire. When we get a report of a cannabis growing in Nottinghamshire, we don't just assume it is a local person growing it for a local supply. I will make no apologies for directing people to go through doors and seizing cannabis. When we go through the doors of a cannabis grows, very often we don't know what we are going to find. It is important to find the true story that lies within. If that rescues one child or one young adult held against their will, then that is exactly why policing exists, to do just that, and we will pursue these people to the end of the earth. But hang on again a second, bud. Like, your policy that you're upholding is holding people prisoner. Like, do you not understand that? I as a cannabis consumer feel that I am being held against my will if I am to give up my cannabis use. That's not something I'm willfully getting involved in. It would be something I'm getting involved in because of the threat that you are putting on us. You know, you're part of this fucking thing, you know, dipshit Allen. And he go on to talk, like, he thinks of himself as some sort of a hero. I know while what he's doing is great. Yes, he is rescuing kids who are being caught up in human trafficking because of the organised crime gang, but he's not seeing how much of a part he plays in this problem. You're a huge part in this problem, man, and this kind of these warnings you're putting out there do very little. All your work is doing very little. If in fact it's actually doing the complete opposite of what you're hoping it will achieve. Because, you know, for all of these cannabis grows that you're busting, you know, you're making the criminals need more and more of these kind of child slaves coming in from Vietnam and stuff. Because guess what? There's going to be less people willing to engage in that sort of activity in your country who are from your country for the same amount of money, you know. Do you know, this is straight up slavery that they're getting involved in here. But you know, dipshit Alan, you know, he's like, at least we saved some kids, but doesn't talk about the fact that his policies actually put those kids in danger in the first place. Like, you know, it's like pushing fucking a kid who can't swim into a swimming pool and then saving their life and congratulating yourself afterwards for it. Like, did you not realise you were the one who pushed the kid into the pool in the first place, you dipshit? But he went on to say then, at the end of this, he says that he has one last word for drug dealers cultivating cannabis across Nottinghamshire. He says, don't expect a knock from us. He says the door will be taken off its hinges. What in the name of God? Like, I mean, this guy is a lunatic. He is actually addicted to the thrill of the drug bust. You know what I mean? Like, I guarantee you, like, he's got a semi-hard, like, in his pants right now, you know, with the thoughts of busting in a door. He talks about, we don't know what we're going to meet behind the doors. I'd say he'd love nothing more than to have a shootout with these criminals. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'd love that. Like, he'd love that. And then go on to the media and be like, oh my God, it was so scary, but we got in there, we saved the kids and we shot it out with the criminals and it was a great day for the police. And he's just sick, sadistic individuals. Like, there's a certain type of person you attract for the job of a police officer. And here we've a shining example of it. Like, this guy is a psychopath. But we drive on from the psychopaths of the UK and Ireland, and we go on over to India, where India, interestingly, are joining in with the old prohibition propaganda now. They've seized their first seizure of cannabis edibles in India. Amazing. I didn't realise this was a first for India. But yeah, this was the first time the police in India have carried out a raid and seized cannabis edibles. It was cannabis brownies that they seized. It was just shy of a kilo of brownies as well. So that's maybe 24 to 48 brownies. Like, I've cooked brownies in the past. Like, you know, you take the tray out. The tray is quite heavy. Like, you know, brownies weigh quite a bit. Like, so like maybe at most like 20 brownies. Like, I would say. So they took about 20 brownies, and they also found about 125 grams of cannabis. They carried out a raid of a bakery as well, and that's where they found the products. So it's interesting enough. I wonder, you know, is it at all possible that this was CBD products and that this was kind of hemp, if you will? I wonder. I don't know, like, because it's like I was seeing in India there a lot of interest lately of CBD products, the CBD industry of hemp being grown over there for the reason of CBD. So I wonder, you know, is this like the Little Collins of India now? Do you know, the guys over there trying to set up their own little CBD bakery, trying to sell products to people that might actually help with certain health conditions. And instead they find themselves now being brought before the courts and charged with having possession of narcotics. Quite extreme, like, you know. And they go on to say in the article then as well, you know, and I don't know, like, I just think there's something fishy about it. It's very similar to kind of what goes on back here in Ireland as well, you know. That examples of cannabis-infused foods include baked goods, candy, potato chips and more. And this was the part that I thought was very similar. They say that one may not be able to distinguish between regular baked goods and those containing cannabinoids, which tend to have a slightly green tinge and often emit a faint cannabis smell. So interesting enough, you know. I wonder, you know, is the media owned by the same media tycoons of Ireland and the UK and stuff? Like, I wonder, like, I just don't know. I just think that stinks a little bit. That it's just too much of a coincidence. You've all this shit going on over here in Ireland and the UK about cannabis and edibles and, oh God, somebody think of the children, and then all of a sudden India now is bloody raiding bakeries. Seems a bit too much of a coincidence for me. But we stick with India for another news story, and it is Feed the Birds India. Basically over in India, last week I believe it was, on the 5th of June, which was World Environment Day, apparently anyway. That's news to me. I didn't know that, and apologise to the world for not knowing it was your Environment Day. But anyway, on the 5th of June, as part of organisations in India, there was a number of organisations holding various kind of demonstrations around the country. And as part of one of the demonstrations, a few young people gathered in a location, and I can't pronounce the name of the place here, Kollam, in Kollam anyway. And they basically planted some cannabis plants. And they got snitched out. Somebody noticed them nearby. Somebody was watching them and rang the authorities and said, I seen some guys acting suspiciously over there. And the cops came down and intervened anyway, and they found 2 cannabis saplings down there. One of them was 15 centimetres tall and the other one was 30 centimetres tall. And the cops have issued a statement saying that the individuals involved in this was a team led by a person with a criminal history. Like, how did they know this? Like, you know, a person who noticed the activity found their action suspicious and informed the excise department. And during the course of the search, 2 saplings around 15 centimetres and 30 centimetres in height were recovered. Earlier, the department had received inputs about cannabis saplings being grown underneath a bridge on the national highway bypassing Kollam. However, when the team reached the spot, it was not found. So that was in another spot. So well done to whoever is over there in India is going out there and get involved with the Feed the Birds campaign. Legends. Now, obviously, this is to connect cannabis with the environmental benefits that it could offer the planet, in that it is an amazing alternative to many of the more harmful industrial chemicals that are out there, you know, or industrial processes that are out there. You know, you can make some amazing clothes from hemp, you can make amazing paper from hemp, you know. Much better than destroying trees just to go and wipe your ass, you know. Like what is it? It takes like 500 years to grow the same amount of hemp or pulp that a couple of acres of hemp fields could grow in one season. Like, in fairness, like I would much rather that we made better utilization of this plant. So well done to the activists there over in India getting involved in the Feed the Birds campaign again. So legends, whoever you are. And feedthebirds.ie as well, guys, if you're looking for that. Nice and simple, feedthebirds.ie. That was set up and is run by the guys over at Little Collins. So well done to them for that. Legends as well. So do get on over there, guys. If you don't know what Feed the Birds is, it's a website where you can go over and register and you'll get free cannabis seeds sent to your house, and or to any address you choose, and you can then go and grow them as part of a larger national campaign, where we hope to see cannabis plants just popping up everywhere around Ireland. So we drive on, guys, and the last headline I have for you today, guys, it is from the UFC. I don't know if people were up and watching it over the weekend, but I rather much enjoyed the fights over the weekend. And unfortunately, as much as I wanted Nate Diaz to win, he didn't win. But man, what a fight! Like, what a legend! Amazingly, he came very, very close to winning in that final round. Very close fight indeed. But I'm not here to report on his fight. I'm here to report on his antics prior to the fight, because he again, you know, staying true to who he is and his true character. He's sparking up on stage. Like, now, Nate Diaz got in trouble in the past. He's been fined by the athletic commissions and things like that for his cannabis use. But man, he's just stayed true. He stayed true to the cause right up to now. And he was on stage there as part of the press conference over the weekend, and he was sparking up and smoking the old spliffs on stage. I have a video there for you of him just smoking away out on stage. Whole crowd out there. I think that's is that an Ireland flag or is that an Italy flag? I can't tell if the video's backwards or what's the crack like. But he's definitely got a good old Ireland following anyway. Or an Irish following. He's definitely got a fan in me anyway. I prefer him over McGregor any day, and apologies to McGregor out there, like no hard feelings, dude. I just fucking think Nate Diaz is a legend. And we've got another video there of him as well up on stage, and you see him here just down under the table wafting on, like, apparently he offers Marino a smoke and everything, and flicks the old spliff out into the crowd then as well. Obviously throwing it to somebody who was looking for it, rather than throwing her out there in a rude way. But I think this is amazing. Like, you look at UFC, like it's such a mainstream sport today, and you have to think like that. What Nate Diaz is tremendous for the cannabis community. Now, there's others out there in the sporting world, much like Nate Diaz, who consume cannabis too. He's not the only one. We have Michael Phelps, the fucking famous swimmer. I've an old photo of him there for you guys. Pop him up on the screen. You see Phelps there hitting the bong. and you probably have seen the other one where he's actually in the pool, and he's like blowing water out of his mouth, but somebody went away and cleverly crafted in the bong. I don't have that one there to share with you, but Michael Phelps is one of the most decorated Olympic athletes in the history of the Olympics, I believe. He has more medals to his name than anyone else out there, and the guy enjoys an old puff of cannabis. Isn't that completely counterintuitive to what like the prohibitionists would tell you? And then look who the next guy is popping up on screen. Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is apparently the fastest man on land. Michael Phelps is the fastest man on water. In all fairness, two of the fastest people alive, and they're consumers of the herb. So, the lazy stoner myth, that's true, truly, well and truly dead. That has to be. No, if you're a stoner and you're lazy, well, you were just a lazy person anyway. Just that, fuck it. You can't blame cannabis for your problems. Just jog on. Own up, have a bit of responsibility, own up for your own fucking problems, and don't blame it all on cannabis. So yeah, well done, Nate Diaz, legend, as I say, doing a tremendous a level of good there for the cannabis community and really putting it out there. And yeah, there is other sporting associations in America now looking at cannabis use for their athletes. The NFL, is it the NFL, the National Football League? Yeah, the NFL was definitely one where there was a lot of their athletes were relying on pain medication, painkillers, opiate-based, and many of them now find much better relief from therapeutic relief, from their pain using cannabis, and they don't have half as many of the nasty side effects that came with the other pain medication that they were on, such as feeling drowsy, loss of appetite, and things like that. Have quite unpleasant side effects. Cannabis is probably one of the only drugs that people take for its side effects, the munchies, going to sleep, the giddy bangs, hell, even for me, as I said on last Friday's show, I rather enjoy the paranoia, if you will, the heightened sense of awareness that comes with cannabis sometimes. I talked last week about my experience in the sensory deprivation tank, but again, I rather enjoy that. So again, the side effects of cannabis are what people use it for. So hopefully soon we will see more normalization of it, with a wider acceptance of it. Nate Diaz was allowed to smoke right up until, I believe, about 24 hours before his fight. So, hopefully soon he'll be able to smoke right up until maybe even before the fight. Why not? It's not really performance enhancing, although you could say it is in a certain sense, not in the traditional sense of performance enhancers maybe. But guys, that is it for today's 420 news. Get some coconut water in there, yummy. Rihanna, oh yes, get in there, Ken. Yes, Rihanna, I love her music. Yeah, she's another fucking famous smoker too, man. And an amazing one at that too. So yeah, other comments out there, guys, and I've a bowl packed up there as well since the start of the show. I just had to get stuck straight into it with you. Um, Mustawa is bidding on a house at Holland at the moment. Can't waste my life here anymore, sadly. Best of luck on that, Mustawa, and yeah, I hope you get the house of your dreams, and I hope it's everything that you hope it to be. Once you get over there, it's sad to hear more people having to leave their home, to seek a country where they're going to be not discriminated against for their choice of herb, So sorry to hear it, but best of luck, and yeah, I hope it's all that you hope it to be. um, Other comments out there, Skatanist, shit man, I mean, great for you, but quite a bummer for the rest of us here. I came here for a better life, and 12 years later, I wake up from a state of a chosen ignorance to this shit show. Like, yeah, it's I would love to be able to, if I didn't have kids and all of that, I'd probably just get up, pack bags, and get out of here. But for me, I can't. I choose to stay and fight because I've kids here, and I would like to see our country improved for my kids and their kids, and so on. But if, as I say, if I was afforded the opportunity to go, I would probably be gone. Um, I don't like living in this country myself either. I don't like the way we're treated. I don't like the fact that it's more difficult for me to get a job because I have a cannabis conviction. I don't like the fact that I can't walk into a store and buy cannabis. I don't like the fact that if I was to grow cannabis, we've got dipshits like Dipshit Allen out there who think it's okay to go and threaten, in the media that they're not going to knock at your door, they're going to take it off the hinges. Like, what if my kid was behind that door when you're coming along taking it off the hinges? You said it yourself, Dipshit Allen, that you don't know what you're going to meet behind these doors, but yet you're more than happy to go out there and take a door off the hinge, and it could very well land down on top of a child and kill him. Scumbags. But yeah, I'll stay and fight anyway, and hopefully maybe Mustawa we might be successful, and we'll get you a holiday home back here or something, or maybe Amsterdam might be your holiday home, or Holland. Oh, excuse me. Hype TCK says, just wait until Kraft fuck up your dairy milk like the UK one. Avi, what's going on? Or Avi, I can't wait to get out of here too. And John O'Dowd, making edibles seems to be pure simple. Sad to see it portrayed in the media like this because edibles are still pretty new to Ireland. Yeah, edibles, like, while they're pretty new, as you say, like, they've been around for ages. Like, hash and yogurt, anyone? Like, how many people were burning hash into their yogurts 20, 30 years ago? Like, that's quite a common thing that I heard of 20 years ago. Hash and yogurt. No, nobody was selling it. That was something you did yourself, but it was definitely there. It was a trend that was happening years ago, but it was just a DIY thing. The criminals weren't out there selling it. Now we see, of course, that America has legalized it, and we now have much more knowledge of these products. So obviously the people here are going to be seeking them out, especially the people here who consume cannabis and are looking in on the other industries where it's actually legal. And then obviously the criminals are going to see an opportunity to make money because there's a demand there then for these products. Other comments out there, guys. I'll quickly flick through as I blaze up my bowl. Civil disobedience protest, if you didn't know. Yeah, and Stowe is such nonsense. Regulate the damn grow houses. Don't just pretend you can ban them. Exactly. They do a lot of pretending, these prohibitionists, don't they? Paul Lefwick, an America who made pot illegal get to smoke legally and rubber nose in the law. Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, America were at the forefront of making cannabis illegal all those years ago, Now they seem to be making it legal over in their own country, while all the rest of us are left with the after effects of their war on fucking drugs around the world. Bloody Americans. Americans love their wars, don't they? um, few Calvins in him when he made that statement. So PCK, Ken Green saying that with so many people in India who are Hindu, their god Shiva, their god Shiva, Lord of Bang, will be disappointed at this. Yeah, that's very true actually. The cannabis has long been ingrained in Indian culture, in the form of bang and other kind of different preparations that would have been described in the Ayurvedic texts. Ayurvedic texts, yeah, I think that's how it's pronounced. But yeah, the cannabis has definitely got a long history in India. Like, isn't that where even our own famed pharmacist or physician, I can't remember what he was, your man, Michael Brooks, William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, yeah, he discovered cannabis over in India. That's where he witnessed its what he called a miracle anticonvulsant for children. Yeah, so India is definitely got a long history of cannabis use, and yeah, I'm sure Shiva will be very, very disappointed. I should pack up another bowl actually for Shiva, shouldn't I? Just to keep her happy. Gotta appease the gods. So now the next bong that you see will also be it won't be a protest. It'll be a religious ceremony. So I'm now practicing religion on the podcast. I'm going to offer a sacrifice here. So this is a sacrifice of some sacred herb to Lord Shiva to make up for some of the dumb things that our other fellow human beings are doing to this plant that you gave to us, for all the wondrous things that it can do for us. Shaming those ignorant people out there. So Lord Shiva, please forgive them. And guys, if you're out there and if you got some of that sacred herb, I think you too should sacrifice some. Offer up a prayer there to Lord Shiva, and that she might forgive these ignorant people who live amongst us. They know not the harms that they do. Right, other comments out there. R&B grows naturally in India. It's a shame Western politics has influenced their culture. Yeah, it is. It's a crying shame, man. We're a toxic fucking force upon the rest of the world. Hype TCK, I've nearly reported or blocked a few people accidentally. Oops. Sorry about that, Hype TCK. I gave a few of you some moderator privileges out there, guys, and yeah, hopefully you don't mind. I meant to message you actually about it, but yeah, if you see any spamming going on out there in the old messages, you know what to do. Shine on a Bucket says, imagine if there was a market where people could bid on your bud like they do with cattle. That would be cool, actually, wouldn't it? That would be quite an interesting affair. That would really bring the prices of the cannabis down as well, wouldn't it? Because, I would imagine there would be a lot on offer. I think there would be a lot of people initially anyway interested in growing their own cannabis. And then over time we'll really just get down to those who are really good at it. Imagine a bud hub. That's a good idea, guys. You know what I mean? Telling you, like, you're imagining it, like, but this is where inventions come from the imagination, like, so you've just imagined it now, so you got to make it happen, guys. Bud Hub Ireland. Hype TCK, they're relentless sometimes. There's one always on Francis Higgins' stream, spamming and has a new account made quicker than mods can ban him. Adam Kennedy, fair play, Martin. Nice one, Adam, and welcome along, dude. Hope you're well. Miss Dawes said, "Ebud, lol, let's do this." That's another good name. The Bud Hub or eBud? eBud actually definitely has a bit more of a modern vibe to it, doesn't it? um, if only he had smoked the sativa instead of the indica before the fight. Ah, yes. It was, and yeah, I see a few of you are out there agreeing that that was some scrap. And Fer Gray says, adding in there that Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods a cannabis consumer? He is. I didn't know that, Ferg. Nice one, man. I'm not up to date in my celebrities and cannabis, to be fair. Diaz and Vettori equals cannabis versus alcohol. Yes, let's make it happen. uh, Kitmer's adding in everyone's on steroids. It's better off if they just stick with the cannabis. Like, they won't even need steroids anymore. They won't care if they're not the best. Like, you know, they were able to accept that where they are. Pods 4420 says, I'd say half of the NBA are smokers too. Yeah, most likely, you know. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but from the basketballers that I have seen, they would tend to give off that kind of that they could be cool stoners, like, you know, smoker types. And DB Woodcraft adding in, not just a cannabis podcast, cannabis culture, cops, and cooking tips. Yeah, but a bit of a jack of all trades, really, isn't it? And Purple Akai, what's going on? I had to Google that individual there the last day, actually, after Hype TCK mentioned it. And yeah, quite an interesting guy you're named after there. Still waiting on a call from the Waterford detective who stole my joint. Wonder if he'll leave me off or send me a brown envelope. They take their time on these things. Like, yeah, just when you think they'll have forgotten, that's when it's going to arrive. Other comments there, guys. John O'Dowd, order of 500 grams of hemp seeds tonight. Hashtag feed the birds. Yes, go on, John. You legend. Good to hear more people getting in with this, and I'm still getting pictures in my inbox. Maybe in another week or so, I'll do another update there as to how people's plants are getting on around the place. So well done, everybody getting involved in this out there. You're all legends. Paul Lefwick says cannabis is good for the head if you get hit in the head because it's anti-inflammatory. That's right, you know, and that's what I say about cannabis all the time. It's a prophylactic. It should be incorporated into a daily routine as to keep the body healthy. Because as you said, yes, it does. It mitigates some of the harms done to the head, you know, from head trauma. And you know, you don't know when you're going to experience head trauma. For me, obviously, I know what this evening I'm going down to the gym. I'm going to have a few guys throwing punches at me. So I'm going to be loaded up on a few cannabinoids before I go there. But like, you know, cycling a bike, you just don't know. You could fall off a bike there, and having a nice level of maybe CBD or something like that and some THC in there too might actually help mitigate some of the harms done. Should you maybe come off your bike, who knows? You know what could happen. I love my country, but I hate what the government are turning it into. John, I'm the exact same, man. I love Ireland. I think it's a beautiful country. I love the world. I think it's a beautiful world. But Ireland, you know, obviously you're born here. You have an attachment to it. Never would I want to leave it. But unfortunately, over the government, my sister was forced to leave because of the government. There are policies here that's seen so many people of her generation unemployed and stuff, and more opportunities afforded to them in places like Australia. So yeah, she was a part of that max exodus of Irish people just back then. And now, you know, I'm kind of almost considering, you know, I'd be tempted at times if a job came by and it offered enough and I could afford to get my family out of here with me. I would probably snatch it up, to be fair. But I wouldn't do it, you know, without being hurt by the choice of it. You know, it would break my heart to have to leave Ireland because of our government. It would make me feel like running away from the bully in the school ground, and knowing now that that bully is still there. I've done nothing to help the other people that are going to be hurt by that bully on the school ground. Now I'm over in another playground, bully free, and I might not enjoy it as much knowing the suffering that's going on over on the other playground that I left previous, but that's just me. Excuse me. Other comments, David Allen. Yes. Sorry, guys. I've seen many articles today that the Gardaí got more powers to demand your passwords for phones or face 5 years in prison. Rights to privacy gone. I'd rather smash my phone off the ground. And that's coming in from Ken Green. Ken, you're spot on, actually. There was more powers given to the government. I didn't get a chance to actually go through it. It's quite a lengthy piece, in fairness. There is a good piece up on Twitter there by, I have it still on my phone because I was deciphering it from her work. Was it Vicky Conway, I think was the name of the Twitter account. But she gave a very good breakdown of it anyway. So I'll be looking into it more myself anyway. And it's Vicky Conway over on Twitter at Dr. V Conway, and she has got a good breakdown there of these new powers given to our Gardaí here in Ireland as part of this new bill along the Policing, Security and Community Safety Bill. That's what it's called. So I didn't bother getting stuck into it in today's 420 news because I would like to have a bit more time with it to understand it, to see what parts of it would be best suited for you. I believe I already tweeted one piece of it already a while ago, which is, guys, and this is very important, this is to your advantage out there, is if you ever get stopped and searched by the Gardaí from now on, they now have to give you a receipt of that stop and search. So they have to provide evidence to you of that stop and search. And that's very important because basically if they stop and search you and they find nothing, you need evidence of that. If they go away and don't give you evidence of that stop and search, you've no proof that it happens. And now 10 minutes down the road, you get stopped and searched again. You know what I mean? You've no proof that it happened only 10 minutes ago. So you get a receipt now of the stop and the search. So that's very important. That's to our benefit. And I believe that's to our benefit. Now, as Ken says, yes, there is other things in there that are quite alarming. But I will get stuck into that as I get more time to sit with that bill. There's so much left inside us, but I hate the way the bottle is shaped and it really makes you shake it out. Right, guys, I am going to have to bounce because it's 10 to 6 and Thai boxing class starts at 6. My own class starts at 7:30, but I want to do the 6 o'clock class as well. I'm just going to flick down to the end of the comments, guys. Kitmar says, Martin is my favourite Hindu. What's Shiva's number? I'm running low. And that's DB Woodcraft. I wish I had it, man. I wish I had it. You just got to close your eyes and offer up your prayers. She might provide. Jimmy Touchdown says, I wish Martin would wear a towel on his head for respect. At Podge85, yeah, the Opes as well. I forgot about them. Oh yeah, a nice Henry in the back, in the black. Tiger Woods had it in his system a few years ago. I'd say he still uses it for the pain after the crash, possibly. And nice one for that, Ferg. And Fwetch here says, hey Martin, I'm just wondering if you know if there's any organisation like the Cedar Future one from the UK operating in Ireland. Not like the Cedar Future campaign, no. As far as I know, like, I would be probably the closest thing to that myself. But I'm just an individual. But I would love to get something like the Cedar Future campaign going. As I say, I hope to try to get more people involved in the civil disobedience and just try to bring the system to a halt just by sheer force of numbers, you know, power in numbers. But, you know, Cedar Future one, where they're basically challenging it through the courts, requesting evidence of the legality of the law. No, there's nothing like that here as far as I know. Scatana, some have actually started sprouting now, and I may plant them at night to replace the ones stolen by the council. Legend, well done, Scatanist. And yeah, I just missed your earlier comment there as well, but good to hear that there's some sprouting there, and best of luck out there in the Feeding the Birds campaign and overgrowing this government that we have at the moment. Stoned Egypt, what's going on? I'm always searched. I'll be aware of it the next time. Man, definitely be aware of it, because if they stop and search you like more than 3 times without finding anything, you can do them for harassment after that. If it's within a defined period of time, that is, I think it's like a month or so. So just keep that in mind. Purple Kai, what do you think, Martin? Will I be given a conviction at 19 and ruin my employment chances like you've experienced yourself? If you've not been in trouble before, I think that's what you were saying earlier. No, I don't think you will get a conviction for the joint. I believe the judge will afford you an opportunity to make a donation to the poor box, as long as you're being like apologetic and, you know, towing the line. Oh, this was like a once off, this will never happen again, I'll be so good, I've given up drugs, I'll even do a piss test, you know, and hope he doesn't actually ask you to do it. You know, but if you can do that kind of a thing, you will be afforded most likely the donation to the charity box, which will be probably somewhere in the region of maybe 300 to 400 euro. And you'll probably be given about a month to pay it into the poor box then. That's what I suspect might happen. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And sorry if I keep clearing my throat there, guys. Miss Stow is, I'm confident the guards will tell us to get lost if we ask for a receipt. Well, no, right now it's in law that they have to, and if they don't, they're now breaking a law. Good luck trying to prove that, I suppose, is kind of what you might say. But look, you would only hope that they will follow the rules, as they say that they're doing their job by upholding them, you know. Session, like I'd imagine you're talking about BJJ, rather than actually like you're doing maybe a lot of pre-rolls, making a lot of pre-roll joints. Excellent, man. If you're ever down in Cork, or let me know where you're training or something, and if we can get a few rolls done as well. If I can, I have to get the gi back out as well. I was doing quite a bit of no gi and gi before, but to be fair, I haven't done a bit of BJJ now in about 12 to 18 months, I'd say. It's been that long, unfortunately. And Podge 85, record it on your phone as self-evidence. Yeah, for sure. Definitely always record it on your phone as well if you're able to do so. But sometimes they might try to snatch your phone off you and things, man. Those cops can be quite aggressive at times, so always be careful around them as well. So guys, and apologies for keep clearing my throat. Fucking that bloody butter in the coffee this morning is still acting up on me. Guys, that is it, and apologies guys if I flashed over your comments there. I see DB Woodcraft actually saying here, Sinn Féin TD McCarthy on Twitter today about hemp farming in Cavan. Government have put up obstacles. You know, he's just putting an old tag up there to that. I'll definitely check that out. So a nice one for drawing my attention to that. I haven't seen anything from Sinn Féin TD McCarthy. So I'll look into that. Also, I seen there was something up there on Little Collins as well about hemp farmers having to destroy a lot of their crop, the flowers and stuff like that. They're not allowed to process it for CBD. I'll try to catch up with him and maybe some farmers on that as well before next week's show, but or next Wednesday's show. But guys, I'll leave it there because I am going to have to run. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll be back with more 420 news on Wednesday, guys. So until then, stay blazed, guys, and keep it lit. Much love and peace.